and welcome to the Agile Coaching Exchange. It's now March. Gosh, getting really into spring. Fantastic. Tonight, we've got a different format to normal. We've got a lightning session where we have two speakers tonight with two subjects we think are really, really important for the Agile community. I think we'll just dive straight in, I think. So first up, we've got Emma Hopkinson-Spark, who is Chief of Staff at 101 Ways, and also a fantastic coach who I've had the pleasure to work with and share time with over the last few years. Without any further ado, I'd like to hand over to Emma.
Hey, thanks, Ben. So I've done something very unusual for me, and I've actually done a slide deck for tonight. So I'm going to see if I can share it, and hopefully everyone can see it. Okay, is that working for everybody? Yes, I see a thumbs up. That's good. Okay, so yes, the thing I'm going to talk about is this 5 reasons to meet, and this comes from not that one. Okay, if I go back a few years, so a long time ago, in a client far, far away, we had a situation where, and it's a familiar situation for everybody, where I've got everybody complaining that they're spending all of their time in meetings, that they can't do any work because they're spending far too much time in meetings. And so the management at the time, in their wisdom, decided that the best thing they could do is to gather some data about that, which sounds like a very sensible thing to do. So obviously we want to understand the problem more, we will gather data about it. And the way that they did that then was to first off say that no meeting happens unless there's an agenda. So you must have an agenda. And the way that you form your agenda is by filling in this form all about what the meeting is going to be. So who do you need to attend? Who would be optional? Everything else that you would normally put into your meeting invite anyway. But then what are the things that you're going to do? What's the actual agenda? What outcomes do you want to? What follow-up would you need for this meeting? So there's already a form to fill in then to get to the meeting. And then at the start of the meeting, everybody who attends filled in a form that said what was their understanding of what they expected from this meeting that they're now attending. And what they were looking forward to, what they were confused about. Did they have a copy of the agenda beforehand? When did they get a copy of the agenda, etc., etc. And at the end of the meeting, there was then another form for everybody to fill in that was saying how well did the meeting meet their expectations of the agenda, which bits of the agenda were most interesting, did they understand the follow-up, how did they participate, what was their contribution to it, etc., etc. So then we went from a situation basically where everybody was complaining about spending all of their time in meetings, and now they were spending all of their time filling in forms about all the meetings that they were attending to. So it didn't make it better, it just made it worse. And you'll be no doubt not surprised to hear that they did nothing then with the data that they got from that, and all that happened was that everybody got very annoyed and it all went to pot very quickly. So I definitely learned what not to do about that problem in that situation, and so that's okay, it was a learning experience. So then fast forward a few years, and in 101 Ways, and then was faced with a situation a few years ago where everybody's complaining that they're in too many meetings. We're spending all of our time in meetings and I can't get any work done. And so my memory is coming back to me, and I'm thinking, well, I know what I'm not going to do is get everybody to stick to an agenda and fill in lots of forms. But what I did instead was to just look across all of their diaries and look across everybody's diaries and think to myself, actually, what are these meetings and can I categorize them at all? Why are we even meeting? What are they about? Is there a way of simplifying this view to understand where people are actually spending their time? And what I came up with were just these 5 reasons why you would ever need to meet. And all of the meetings across all of our leadership team and the people dealing with HQ, all of their meetings fell into one of these 5 reasons. So I'm going to walk you through them now. The first one being information sharing. So this really comes down to broadcasting information. So I know something which I need you to know, or you know something you need me to know. And what I've done here is just lay out what is it roughly about. So it's really about broadcasting a one-way flow of information generally. And you should really think about the best way to deliver then that message. Characteristically, I think it's better done to large groups. You should have some opportunity for questions and answers. And you really have to think about what is consumable offline. So, for example, when I looked at everybody's diaries, I saw an awful lot of information sharing type meetings And what they were small groups of people passing information from this group to this group to this group to this group. There's an awful lot of repetition and a lot of wasted time. When you're in a meeting and you're thinking to yourself, this could have been an email, the chances are it was an information sharing style meeting. So once you think of it as this is about sharing information, then think to yourself, how do I optimize for that? Does it need to be a meeting at all? And how can I get the message out the way that I want to the largest number of people I can, so that it's so I don't have to repeat it, so that it's my one hit. Okay. The next type is about tactical collaboration. So this is, we're here and we're now, and we're going to put our heads together and we're going to work through an issue and work through a problem and come up with some actions right now. So it's very conversation oriented, works best in small groups so that everybody involved can really get stuck into it. And this will suddenly start to sound very familiar in that this is what I would expect a really good stand-up, your daily stand-up should be about, tactical collaboration. And it's worth saying, I think, on this, that where I've gone into organizations and you've seen some really, and we've all seen them, really dry, unhelpful daily stand-ups where people stand up in the group and they go, yesterday I worked on this ticket, today I'm going to carry on with it, no blockers, right? And you go around the group and everybody's said that. Where I see organizations struggling with a good quality daily stand-up, what it's actually done is fall into habits of sharing information rather than tactical collaboration around an actual problem. And as soon as you think of that meeting as tactical collaboration, it puts people in a different mindset, keeps you very action oriented and keeps it conversational. So that's how I tend to phrase those stand-ups and term it those ways. The third type is about planning ahead then. So I'm not going to distract myself with what's going on now. I'm just going to look up the road a little bit and make sure that the path is clear for what we actually want to do, and give ourselves the opportunity to explore all of those what if scenarios and any risks that might be, and just check that we are well headed in the same direction. Because this is still quite conversational and very action oriented, it's best done in small groups. So where they start to get not very good planning meetings is maybe where there's too many people involved, or you're not thinking about actions and you're looking too far ahead down the road even. Okay. The next one is about alignment. So this is really that rallying cry where we are trying to get buy-in, we are forming teams around a vision, trying to get everybody working together and pulling in the same direction on something. And this can get a bit tricky then to organize because there's a lot of variety in that. Could be a really small group that you're just trying to pull together as a team. You haven't got any actual output for it or you're not trying to get a plan together, but you're just trying to get these people to think in the same way and to pull together and to really get aligned. It could be hundreds, if not thousands of people, and you're just trying to rally everybody around a vision and let them know the future and make sure that everybody's pulling the same way. But what you are trying to get to out of any of those different messages that you're trying to get through, what you are trying to get is an emotional response from your audience on this one. What you really want is to think about then what emotion you want from people. Is it about teamwork? You're wanting to build trust in a group of people? Are you trying to get people excited about a new idea or a new vision that they're trying to pull to? Or are you trying to raise awareness of a risk and actually get people to worry a little bit about something that they haven't done before? But it always comes down to what emotional response do you want out of your audience? And once you fix on that and you know what emotion you're going for, then you can start to structure what's the best way to do that. Is it a big broadcast? Is it a small meeting where we workshop something and people find the solution for themselves? But focus on the emotion that you want first, and then try and figure out how to organize and to plan the session that you want around it. And the last one is very familiar again to everybody, which is that reflection, that pause, that retrospective where you're actually learning. So now we're not distracting ourselves with anything that's happening now. This isn't about the now or the next. This is just that moment. We look back and we keep it really open and honest, and ideally have some shareable output. So it's not just you and the immediate people can learn from it, but that wider group as well. But this is your retrospectives really. So if I go and show you all the 5, it's worth saying, I think, at this point, that something like Scrum captures all of these really well, right? And it wasn't until after that I'd pulled all this together that I looked back and I went, oh, actually, there are all the Scrum meetings. How interesting. So it's not by design, but it's definitely there, that they're all rooted in everything that you need out of people. So when I looked at the diaries and I categorized them as 5, the first thing I did was to then color code all of and categorize everybody's diaries across this. And I found a mass of short information sharing style meetings that were just repeating stuff and had the same people in half of them with just slightly different audiences and slightly different messages. So no wonder people were getting bogged down and distracted with those. But I also found a lot of meetings that were trying to be 2 or 3 of these things and not succeeding in any of them. So the way that we then rationalized our diaries was, the first thing we did is, instead of saying you have to have an agenda, what you do have to do when you want a meeting is to say which of these things, be explicit. This is about information sharing. This is a meeting that I'm putting in for collaboration. This is a meeting all about alignment. And it can only be one of those things. And as soon as you tell people that, set that expectation about what type of meeting they're coming to, it puts them in the right frame of mind to hear what it is you want to say. So if I know I'm going to an information sharing meeting, I'm a bit more passive, I'm open to ideas, I'm ready to listen, and I'm ready to hear what somebody has to say for me. I might think about the questions I want to ask, but my ears are open and I am listening for the information that someone needs to share with me. If I know I'm going to a tactical collaboration meeting, I'm thinking, okay, what issues do we need to solve? I'm being creative. I'm very oriented right now in the moment and the thing we're trying to do. I'm not getting distracted by the next. I'm not getting distracted with all the background information. It's very collaborative. Us right now, how do we solve this? So my creativity is starting to come to life. When I go to a planning ahead style meeting, I'm not getting distracted by the now. I'm thinking about risks and issues and roadblocks and direction, and just thinking of the few things we can do to make sure that we're going to be successful down the line. If I'm going to an alignment meeting, I'm thinking, if I'm planning it, I'm thinking about what emotion I want from people. If I'm going along to it, I know I'm going to be asked to deal with something or to come along for something. So I'm already thinking what challenges are there and how can I get involved in that. And for reflection, again, I know I'm going along to that. I'm already thinking of ideas and I'm reflecting on where we've come from and I'm thinking of the kind of learning that we can get from it. So this isn't a particularly long talk and I'm probably just about done with it anyway, but they are called lightning talks, so that's okay. But my point is that having an agenda won't fix it. People will often say, there's loads of blogs and articles and ideas about how to get better meetings. So you must always have an agenda. You can go to any meeting, have an agenda, and it's still a crap meeting because, okay, we're stuck exactly to the 5 things we said we're going to do. Nobody cares. It's still crap. Okay, you can cut everything 5-10 minutes shy. Google's great at doing that for you. Google Calendar will make all your meetings 50 minutes instead of an hour. Doesn't mean it was a good 50 minutes. It just means you've got 10 minutes in between to go and grab a coffee. It doesn't make it any better. And then there's vote with your feet. So if you're not participating in it, you don't think you're getting anything out of it, stand up and you leave. And everyone's seen all those all over LinkedIn and things as well. But that doesn't make it any better. It just means that you've left the meeting. If everyone does that, we have these meetings because we need something from one another. And I think if you're just really explicit about the emotion that you're trying to get from people and what you want out of this meeting of minds, then that's how you get fewer and better meetings. So I'm happy to take any questions. I rattled through that, I'm afraid, but I do.
I got a question, if that's all right, Emma.
Go for it.
It's not more of a question. It's like, what else could you kind of like apply this to? Because obviously I love this for meetings. Like when I worked at another company, we also did this sort of thing for emails, because you kind of like get like, oh God, do I have to read all of these? But I always like it when it's like action for you. So I know that they're actually expecting me to do something on this. Have you kind of explored any ideas like that? Or like,
That's a great idea. I could easily apply the same things to email and that kind of categorization. Okay, I'm going to do that next. That's what I'll do. I'll see how it applies.
Yeah, credit Helen.
Helen says,
But
Yeah, I
then
will.
at least tells you like which ones to bother reading and which ones like, later
But
on when you're.
who's gonna label their email? You don't have to read this.
I mean, we are living in a world of very advanced technology, so I can imagine that you can start training like computers to do that. If the email mentions like Helen do something, it kind of like auto labels it like there's an action for you in this email.
Well, you already kind of get your focus inbox now. Does everybody have that? You've got this is the important stuff, this is the other, and it's already starring things for me, and that's so already kind of prioritizing for me. But that kind of, I guess, the same logic about actually what do I need to, when I'm reading this, what ears do I need or eyes when I'm reading it, it is about consuming information. Is this an action that I'm going to have to take? You could apply the similar kind of categorization. Yeah.
And I saw your question, Klaus, but like you have to, for your information, you have to physically open the email to then find out that you've just been CC'd on it. I'm thinking like title line, you don't even have to open that bad boy. You know whether you got to do anything.
I like to put for your information in the title.
Right, that's good to know. That everybody notes that if you want Helen to read an email, then you have to put important in the title, otherwise she's not going to read it.
Yeah, and then I have clarifications of importance. So
they're all important. Right? Priority 1.
Everything's urgent, everything's important. Yes.
Exactly.
I remember in Outlook, you used to be able to put emails as high importance, but we all found out that your important isn't necessarily my importance.
But I kind of miss that.
I'm also thinking ticketing system. So thank you, caller. You are position 50 in the queue.
Does anyone have any questions for Emma?
So worth saying, I did do this one as a poem. So I went through a phase a few years back of decided the only time I was going to do talks was if it was rhyming. So I still do. I get anybody. I don't know if anybody is, but there's a really good community called CTO Craft. That's really the technology leaders. There are a few coaches in there as well. It'd be worth people checking out. But I do present quite a lot with CTO Craft, and whenever I host their conferences, I do intros in rhyme, at least now. But I've done a few talks where it's all been in rhyme. And I videoed a couple of them and put them on LinkedIn. So on my LinkedIn page, you'll find the meeting talk in a poem condensed to about 3 minutes. So by all means, go and giggle at me rhyming as well. That's fine.
I've actually got a genuine question there, if that's all right.
Yeah.
So obviously this is great, and obviously you want people in your whole organization to kind of like take this on board and implement it. How easy did you find that to be able to get everybody to do it and to remember to do it, that buy-in?
It was actually really easy because it made people's diaries cleaner and easier to understand. But I think we were quite a small organization at the time. So we just did it with our HQ team, which was only about 15 people or so. And we were really strict on it for a few months of like, and then we were meeting in and they hadn't specified what type of meeting it was, I would go back to them and help them categorize it so we could update it and share it with everybody. But after a while, we didn't need to be that explicit in it because it was so ingrained into then just the way that we do things that everybody knew what they were doing. And we found that there were fewer and better meetings already from it, and we kind of dropped the need to be that explicit about it. We've grown the team again now. We're up to something like 20-25 people just in the HQ team, and I've seen the meetings start to grow again, so I'm in a phase of being more explicit about it again. But I think once people get used to it, then it was really quite easy. It was really natural and easy to adopt, actually.
Brilliant. Thank you, Emma.
Klaus, you had a question. Oh, just on you.
Yeah, I kind of got answered just now. My question was like, first of all, great topic, Emma. I really love it. I'm thinking of a couple of clients already where I think I'll try and apply something like that. But as always, like no matter how great the ideas are, I feel that it often is a problem like getting things to stick. So my question would have been like, how did people like it? Where you applied this, and did it stick? And will it stick?
So I think I had the advantage in the position that I'm in the organisation. It was very easy for me to make it happen because I just did it and I made it happen. When you're trying to influence other people, I can see that would be harder. One of the easiest things I did, the simplest, was the colour coding, daft as it sounds, having colour coding for the meetings. So that they show up in the diary, made it very visual and very easy for people to see. And it also highlighted the fact that you can only choose one, because you try and label it 2 or 3 different colours and it's not going to work. So actually, what's the point of this meeting? What is the why? And that was the easiest way to get people to stick with it, because it was very obvious when something didn't have a colour code to it, and they could glance at their diaries really easy and say, how come I'm spending all day sharing information? There's got to be a quicker way of doing that. But it's not until we made it very visual and easy to consume that people really grabbed it.
Thank you.